Hey guys, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Claire Holliday. I am a fantasy author, aspiring traditional publishing, and I am in the middle of reading the ever popular The World Phenomena Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is going to be filled with spoilers, so I would check out part one. And last I left you guys, our protagonist Violet was in the middle of the threshing, and she had acquired not one, but two dragons. And one of those dragons is the biggest, baddest dragon in the entire Vale and is mated to Xaden's dragon. The way this book is written is easy to consume, doesn't take a lot of work. There are just some things that if I was an editor, I would probably underline and be like, hey, let's maybe drop some hints about this or talk about this early on in the draft. One of those being how mated dragons need to be near each other, are extremely bonded to each other, and if one dies, the other also gets hurt or also dies shortly afterwards. Somehow them being mated affects each other's lives, and therefore the dragon riders of these mated dragons are also bonded together. This just seems like something that could have been at least mentioned in one line before it is revealed that that's what happened to Violet, but it's one of those where she says it just da-da-da-da-da afterwards, and I found that very sus. I think that's not my favorite type of world building. I like things a little bit more built up than that. Then we have another Dane and Violet interaction, and let me tell you, I am so over Dane and his contributions. I find his Violet, it's not safe, very repetitive, and maybe that's how Violet feels, but my God, we get one of those scenes like every other chapter. So at this point, there's no more information for me to gather from Dane other than he's obsessed with rules and keep Violet safe. Although also, so he and Violet kiss. That's when she realizes that while Dane is incredibly respectable and powerful and her childhood friend and very attractive, she's not actually attracted to him. There is no chemistry, there is no spark. Kind of interesting. However, he like blatantly says that he would have let Violet die in the threshing because it's against the rules for second or third years to intervene, but she was also clearly being hunted down by people that were also actively breaking the rules, because not only were these people that were hunting down Violet, they were going to kill a dragon. I'm like, if you can't intervene for that, then what is the point? Then why are dragons and humans even linked together if they aren't able to protect one another, especially humans protecting dragons, because they need dragons to bond and have magic and be these like war machines. But he's like, no, I wouldn't intervene for that because I'm not a rule breaker. But also the entire book, he's like, Violet, I'm gonna sneak you out of here to get you to the scribe quadrant so you can be a scribe. His entire plot to protect Violet is all about breaking rules. So Violet's telling me, like in her head and out loud, that Dane's obsessed with rules, and Dane sometimes acts like he's obsessed with rules, but the most important thing that has to do with Violet actually is him constantly talking about breaking rules. So everything about Dane, from his inconsistent rule following to the repetitive language that he has with Violet, because seriously, it is actually the same conversation over and over and over again. I am over that storyline. It is done to me. She's like, I'm not attracted to him. I'm like, thank God, just stop talking to him. So now, while she has the not just one but two dragons and the biggest baddest dragon, it's like, oh, you're still not safe because your bond with these dragons are the weakest, so people that haven't bonded with dragons during this ceremony are going to try to kill you to bond with the dragon, which I guess maybe they reiterate in other ways that when a dragon is bonded to a rider, if the rider dies, the dragon is like emotionally, if not physically, affected by it. The way I understand it, it doesn't quite make sense. I feel like the dragon would still be upset. They would be like, oh, I decided to bond with this person and now you killed my rider and I'm just gonna bond with you instead. It has not really been shown to me or explained to me that dragons would actually be okay with that. In fact, everything has shown me the opposite, including what happens later, but I'm going to talk about. So Violet almost gets assassinated by a bunch of students in her room when she's asleep, which is supposed to be a strict rule that even if you want to kill another student, you are not supposed to do it during sleeping hours. And Xaden comes in at the last second and she like protects herself a little bit, but he ultimately saves her and kills a bunch of students. And he throws a huge fit to the dragons. One, I don't quite understand. I'm gonna be honest. I'm like, you know, she's bonded to your dragon's mate. You know, you guys are connected. Why are you throwing a fit about having to protect her? The author's trying to set up a hate to love thing, and that he's like genuinely worried about her, but also still holding it behind a facade. Xaden's my favorite character. He's a cliche, but I'm not even sure he's an interesting cliche, but he's a cliche I enjoy. I'm a sucker for that hate to love stuff. I'm an original Zuko Katara fangirl. Like that's forever imprinted on my heart. So anybody that's even remotely Zuko coded, I'm very into. I mean, this channel was built upon my enthusiasm for the Kylo Rey romance and the new Star Wars movies. Big fan of Xaden. Even though I found his rant to the dragons to be a little nonsensical, also revealed that the golden dragon is a child dragon that nobody knows about. Like they just think it's a different species of dragon, not that it's a child, because they don't understand what young dragons look like, I guess. I feel like doesn't make any sense either. The protection of your nation and of your world is based on the backs of these dragons, and you have a college dedicated and these people dedicated to these dragons, and you're telling me that none of them know that feathertails are child dragons, young dragons, baby dragons, that they don't know that no one knows what a baby dragon looks like or is. Do you see me going a little crazy? I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That's me through most of this book, as I'm like kind of having a good time reading it, but then I swear to God, like 3 paragraphs, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. I don't understand. I'm getting out a lot of that energy to you guys, so I hope that you like it or it's entertaining. Anyway, so I just finished the chapter where Xaden calls out the wing leader chick that unlocked Violet's room so the other assassins could get in there and almost kill her. And then Violet tries to stop it at the last second, but isn't able to. She like feels really bad for her dragon because her dragon is bonded to this woman, and this dragon clearly goes through like physical and emotional torment by her rider getting executed. I also find it kind of crazy that a 3rd year has the authority to execute. Like, not a teacher, not like someone higher up in the military. Basically, Xaden is the one that calls her out and is like, yep, now it's time for you to get executed. Could you imagine in like a real world school? That's just crazy. And like no real trial either. Violet said you did it, so you did it. I don't know. And then Violet acts so hurt because Dane doesn't immediately take her side and is like, no, we can trust my wing leader. I've worked with her forever, blah, blah, blah. Which I think is kind of reasonable. Like Violet acts like Dane is a traitor almost for not believing her. But I'm like, you don't have any immediate evidence. And Dane actually can see memories and read thoughts, but you can't allow Dane to read your thoughts because you have a bunch of Xaden secrets that you have to keep. So what is Dane supposed to do? He's like, you're not letting me read your mind. She finds the workaround with the dragon. She is in the right. As much shit as I was talking about Dane earlier, I don't think she should hold it against Dane for being apprehensive about killing off a fellow wing leader. Sometimes when I talk about the plot out loud, I just laugh. I just giggle like this right now. I tried explaining the plot of Fourth Wing to my mom and brother, and at first when I was like, yeah, dragon military school, they were like, oh, interesting. And then I like got more into it about like how many students were killed off, and they were like, this book sounds stupid. I don't have a ton of time to rant about Fourth Wing, but the lighting's amazing, so I wanted to do a little something because I'm just about finished, and then I'm gonna go like really in depth about all the things that bothered me. I can look the other way with books like this because I know what I'm getting into. I'm not expecting George R.R. Martin or Shakespeare. I know this is like a very fun read, Dougie, but it is bizarre to read a book that is almost like not even YA. The way it's written, it's like low YA, like for 14 or 13-year-olds. But then there's these incredibly graphic sex scenes. I'm like, who is this for? Who is this for? I guess adult women that like reading at lower levels, perhaps, not to sound like an asshole, or maybe like horned up older teenagers. I've actually been struggling to get through this last like 100 pages because the plot is finally, the real plot, the overarching plot, not just the relationship plot, but the overarching plot is finally setting in. And it's kind of bad. Man, I had such a hard time getting through the second half of this book. I really, really did. And there's a couple reasons of that. So because it's like a dragon school in college, there's a lot of training sequences, getting the dragon, and then there's the games that are supposed to simulate what real battle would be like. Reminds me very much of just that sort of post-apocalyptic dystopian genre. It very much actually reminds me a lot of Divergent and a little bit The Hunger Games, and just how much I am not into those series, because within 20 to 50 pages, it's very clear to me that the school is the bad guy, you know, especially once they introduce the children of the rebels and their relic tattoos. It's like, okay, clearly the school is bad and whoever they're fighting against are actually the good guys. And it kind of seemed like in the first half of the book, Violet follows Xaden and the fellow rebel kids out and they're having a meeting, and she doesn't really hear anything, but she knows it's illegal and odd for all these rebel kids to be meeting together. I was like, okay, we're going to cut to the chase so much faster. And I was so wrong. I was painfully wrong, because no, we did training sequence after training sequence, which doesn't mean anything, but yet it takes up so much space. This is a 500-page book. Like, my God, because you have to train, and then you have to train for the games. Knowing something is artifice, like what's going on in the school, like the training, I have very little patience for. I don't mind if it happens quickly. You know, movies are so smart. Movies understand the training is necessary because you want to believe that the characters actually put in the work to become physically or mentally capable at whatever they need to do. Watching it is really, really dull. Because it was so clear early on that the school, this military, the nation the military works for are clearly the bad guys, I thought we'd get to that point so much sooner, but we don't. And what's even more frustrating, this is where I was like, God, I would read like half a chapter and just want to smash my face into the wall. Violet is a character that we are told over and over and over again is brilliant, the smartest of everyone, because she trained her whole life to be a scribe. Her father was a master scribe, was supposed to be the top of her rank. She's brilliant, she's super smart, and yet never figures out what like the big plot is, even though there were very obvious clues. Obvious to me, the reader, and should have been even more so obvious to the characters that are living through it. But she might go, oh, that's a little odd, never reflects on it later, never puts two or two together, or, oh my God, this is driving me crazy too. Very clearly from chapter 1, or whenever it's introduced, the fables that her father gives her. Chekhov's gone, this is going to be important, and I've read enough fantasy to know that probably whatever in these fables is going to be true. Maybe not perfectly true, but they're going to be true. But don't worry, in this book, not only are they true, they're just exactly true. She even finds a letter from her dad that basically tells her what's going on in these fables and fairy tales. They're real creatures, and the evil magic people, they're real. Like, he basically writes it out for her in a letter, and she still doesn't put it together until she sees it, until she just sees it happen in front of her, until she sees the evil magic people and she sees the evil lizard creatures. Then she's like, oh, that fairy tale book that my dad told me was really important, turns out they're real. You're supposed to be the super smart character. You didn't figure it out. You just waited till it happened in front of you. Why even paint her as this uber smart character if she doesn't use her intelligence for anything? It's unbelievable. She also does not figure out ever that the kids of the rebellious families and, you know, whatever side that they're on is not the bad side. Like, she never actually figures that out. She just kind of slowly realizes it as things are displayed in front of her. It's just more jarring because we're told in the narrative by other characters over and over and over again how smart she is, and it's like, well, you guys just must be surrounded by goddamn idiots if you think she's brilliant because she can't put 1 + 1 together to save her goddamn life. I'm trying to decide, do I get into the thing that super annoys me or kind of annoys me? I'll start with kind of annoys me. No other side characters are interesting. All of the students are NPCs. Violet sort of gets some personality traits. Xaden sort of gets some personality traits. I would say Violet's mother gets a personality trait, and her sister, and I guess Dane. Everyone else, and it's crazy because it's 500 pages, so I'm reading certain names over and over and over again, and I'm like, man, I don't know what they look like. Half of the time I was like, I can't remember what gender they are. I can't visualize a personality. There was just nothing from any of them. The way they speak is indistinguishable from one another. It's indistinguishable from Violet. It's indistinguishable from Xaden. It's like, I can't tell almost any of these people apart. The main reason I can tell Xaden apart is because when he pops onto the page, Violet is like, oh my god, he's the most gorgeous, amazing person in the entire world, blah, 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 blah. And then obviously we're in Violet's head, so I know Violet. Everyone else, and there's a lot of characters. There's teachers, there's siblings, there's friends. It's kind of incredible, actually, like how poorly characterized these different characters are. It made me actually think a lot about Harry Potter because that also takes place in a school. What's so brilliantly done with that series, despite its simplicity, because it's written for a younger audience, is that the characters, even if they're on the simpler side, are very distinct. I can tell when Hermione is speaking versus Ron versus Dumbledore versus Snape versus Voldemort, from the way they talk to the way they're described, the way they interact with other characters, the way they interact with Harry, the way they interact with the school. It's like unique, which is then how I can remember them as characters, even if they're simple. Like, there are teachers that don't get a lot of screen time, so to speak. There are side characters that only pop up once in a while, and yet the way they're described and the way they talk and the way they interact, or like whatever little quirks they have, are unique enough that I can remember them and distinguish them from other characters, including minor characters. You forget what an art that is until you come across something like this. You just didn't try. You didn't care about any of the other characters, so you just didn't try. That's what it feels like. So the other, probably my most major annoyance, is it is a romantasy, heavy on the romance, and it's a hate to love. Is it just a thing in romantasies that, like, authors, they just refuse to take their time? Does no one else think that the flirtation and the will they, won't they is the most fun? To me, that's the most fun. Like, actually questioning, will they or won't they get together? Or if it's a hate to love, like, do they or don't they like each other? It's actually unclear. Like, that is the most fun. They make it so obvious. Well, you're in Violet's head, so again, every single time Xaden walks into the room, she's just like losing her mind. And it's just paragraphs and paragraphs about how gorgeous he is and amazing he is and sexy he is. Okay, there's no internal, even if it's first person, it would be nice if there was like way more internal conversation. I guess there was a little bit, and that is when the book to me was the most interesting, because I don't know, because there was conflict, but it was just so obvious so early on. What really just did me in was that the last chapter was from Xaden's point of view. It blew my mind because I was like, so you just want to ruin everything. You just want to ruin any fun that could possibly be had, because from Xaden's chapter, then you see that he's like, oh, I'm obsessed with her. I've been obsessed with her from day one. From the moment I saw her, I was in love with her. She's amazing. She's incredible. I would give my life for her. And you're just like, why would I want to continue the series? The like part that's fun, the like tit for tat, the flirtation, the will they, won't they, is ruined. Like, I would say the peak part in the book for me was when Xaden followed her out. It was snowing. Somehow it was just the two of them outside, and he very suddenly lost control and they made out for a second. And it was, at that point in the book, it was definitely before the halfway point, sudden. You kind of got the sense that he was into her, but you didn't expect him to act that way. So that final chapter was just like, well, there's just nothing left for me. I just don't care. That last like 5 chapters of the book was so hard to read because I just couldn't believe like how rushed and bare bones. It wasn't good action. The reveal of like the Dane betrayal, the magical creatures being real in the hands of a better author could have been really cool. Should have been really cool. It should have been thrilling and exhilarating and brutal where you're like, oh my god, I can't believe Dane did that. And that was really obvious too. I knew he was going to betray her. Here's the thing too. If this was marketed for really young YA, I wouldn't be as harsh on it. Okay, beginner fantasy, whatever. This is just an adult fantasy. It's like, on what planet? This is crazy. This is not written for adults. This is certainly not written for like adult IQ. You're not trying. That's what it just felt like. It just felt like there was not a lot of effort put into the writing, and there would just be a bunch of little things like when Xaden made Violet the saddle for the dragon, and Violet as well as other people acted like it was the most brilliant and also heroic act Xaden could ever do to make a saddle for her legs to be strapped onto the dragon. I just felt like the author was literally saying like, yeah, I think you're that stupid. Because like, why wouldn't people make saddles if they're dragon riders? If you're at a school for dragon riding, it's not the first time people are discovering it. It's something that's been around for 600 years. And you're telling me no one's thought about making a saddle with straps over themselves to make sure they don't fall off? Also, just the eye-rolling melodrama of Xaden sitting out on the the thing that they had to cross. I keep wanting to say parapet, but that's not correct. A little bridge, but with no rails that people are supposed to cross, and that's supposed to be challenge 1, whether you have, I guess, good balance or not. But Xaden, you know, being all sad and moody and going and sitting on it. And Violet, and she's in a gown and she's like, I'm gonna go to you or whatever. On a dramatic conceptual level, I kind of understand a little bit, but in practicality, it's just so stupid that it was also hard to read. And it's so over the top and so melodramatic. So yeah, I did not love this book. The one thing that kind of sort of hooks me into potentially reading the other books, which I don't know why I would do that to myself, but maybe, is because the very, very, very last like few sentences of the book reveals that Violet's brother is still alive. And I'm like, okay. Violet's brother, also actually one of the slightly better developed characters, despite the fact that he was dead. We have the Dane betrayal, so that's a conflict. We have Violet finally figuring out that her mom and her like nation is on the bad side. We have that like groundwork laid out. We have her brother being alive and being on the rebel side. We have that groundwork laid out. So there's some things where it's like, okay, the real conflict of the book might finally be explored. That was the part that was really frustrating because you kind of see these things from a mile away, and it did not need to take 500 pages to get there. Maybe once we're there, it's super entertaining. I was far more forgiving of it, like the first few hundred pages, because again, I guess I thought we would just get to the point sooner, and we didn't, and then it was a slog. If you've read the entire series, please, 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 for the love of God, let me know your thoughts on those books down below. Just to go back to one of my favorite romanticises, A Court of Thorns and Roses. While I still very much enjoyed the first book, both the writing, the characters, and the plot, it got exponentially more interesting in the second book. So is it a similar situation where the first book just lays down the groundwork and then it just gets considerably better in the second book? It's possible. It's absolutely possible. So that's why I'm putting it out there for you guys to tell me. Or should I just not waste my time? And honestly, if enough people said, yeah, it's kind of bad and I want you to read it anyway, I guess I could be convinced. I need a lot of convincing. Anyway, I appreciate you guys for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.